Robert Dubois. He's in prison for putting Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet.
I'm not joining your suicide squad.
We'll see.
My court date is coming up. And Miss Waller said maybe you could help me out.
You're flexing in my door!
Everyone stand down.
Miss Waller, I don't...
Stand down!
I wouldn't take such extreme measures if this mission went more important than you could possibly imagine. Are you in or out?
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. Had to go number 2.
Good to know.
Is this thing a dog?
A dog? What kind of dog do you think it is, mate?
I'm gonna go with Afghan hound.
Oh my god, is it a werewolf?
Yo, they sent me next to a werewolf! Yo, let me out!
Hey, he's not a werewolf, okay? He's a weasel. He's harmless. I mean, he's not harmless. He's killed 27 children, but, you know.
Your mission is to destroy every trace of something known only as Project Starfish. Any questions?
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
No.
No. All right. Let's get it. This is suicide.
Well, that's kind of our thing.
I'm a superhero!
That's my dad.
I want to get you out of here alive.
I'm going to get you out of here alive.
Ratatouille, what do you got?
Bird.
Now it. Stay off the comm.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my brand new Suicide Squad trailer. I bet you didn't think that you were going to wake up listening to John Cena talking about buttholes and starfish. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs here. I'll explain where this fits in the DC continuity. There's a bunch of stuff going on. They have big plans for some of these characters too that are going to continue on to the Peacemaker TV series, the spin-off series they're doing for John Cena's Peacemaker character that we're actually going to get episodes for in January next year. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. I will also be doing full episode videos for that Peacemaker HBO TV series when they do release it. But I just love how they're trying to give John Cena the most WTF lines possible in all these trailers. Like in the last trailer, it was about sucking all the D on the beach. Now he's going on being super serious about buttholes, like he's taking this dead serious, no hint of irony or joking in his voice. And I love the way Idris Elba's head almost swivels around on his body just to give him that look like, dude, seriously? Seriously? The other really funny thing here too, big coincidence, I know we're in the middle of Marvel's Loki series on Disney Plus in the MCU, obviously no real connection there because it's the MCU, but this base where most of the action takes place, where they're experimenting on Starro, where he goes crazy, is actually supposed to be this former Nazi base, but it's called Jotunheim, named after the realm of the Frost Giants where Loki comes from. James Gunn, obviously big Marvel director, he didn't do that on purpose. The whole idea is that most of the movie takes place in Corto Maltese, which is this big location from the Batman comics that they've used in the movies and a lot of the TV shows. It's meant to be this big port of call for DC villains, big warlords, like this lawless place in the world where you can go and do really shady stuff. So no big surprise that it would have ties to the Nazis. Like Nazis after World War II went to hide in Argentina, a lot of Nazis went to do really shady stuff here a long time ago around World War II. And since then, it's just been taken over by a bunch of local warlords. But they use most of this trailer to hype up Idris Elba's Bloodsport character, Robert Dubois, who's serving a sentence in Bel Rev prison for shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet. Henry Cavill's Superman, just confirming that this does have ties to the DCEU, especially because of Margot Robbie's version of Harley Quinn. But as Amanda Waller says, he put Superman in the ICU, and even though they don't explain much about their history together, like his history with Superman, in the comics, his character was hired by Lex Luthor to assassinate Superman. So I think that's also kind of the idea here, like he was hired by Lex Luthor for an ungodly sum of money to try and kill Superman. But the events of this movie are supposed to take place after the events of the Justice League Snyder Cut. So obviously not getting into the whole nightmare scene flash forward, the big time travel plot during the Snyder Cut sequels. But the idea is that during that movie, with a lot of time travel from The Flash, they would have eventually defeated Darkseid and things would have slowly gone back to normal around the world. All the Justice League members at a certain point would have gone on to their regular lives day to day, just saving people like they normally would. So within a couple of years of that happening, Lex Luthor hires Bloodsport to assassinate Superman, and he's almost successful. The big twist, though, that he doesn't want to have anything to do with Amanda Waller's Task Force X. He doesn't seem surprised by the notion, though, like he knows all about it, like, yeah, I got it, go screw yourself, I don't want anything to do with your crappy team. Attention to detail as well. When he's scrubbing the floor there inside Bel Rev prison, it looks like he's scraping off a piece of human skin. But then they set up the whole arc with his daughter to make you sympathize with him a little bit so that he doesn't seem like such a bad person. Amanda Waller makes it seem like his daughter has this big court case, like she might go to prison too for a long time, and the only way that it's going to go well for her, that she's going to win her court case, is if Bloodsport joins the team. The whole idea, though, with Amanda Waller is that she's supposed to feel like one of the main villains, even though technically she's not the actual main villain. Like, she's supposed to feel as bad as some of the main villains. The idea with Suicide Squad movies is there always is some kind of main antagonist, but because it's a movie about villains traditionally, they want to make them feel more like anti-heroes in more of shades of gray. So no one's really good, no one's really bad. Like, at some point, you'll probably sympathize with Starro. I think the idea here, the way they set it up, is that they found him, or they captured him when he was really small, really young, and they've been experimenting on him this whole time, and he's just naturally grown to this huge size. So even though Starro is this huge DC villain, like he's the OG Justice League villain, if you've read that original Justice League story, their first big team up, Starro was the first villain that they fought together. So normally you think of him as this really bad force in the universe, but I think the idea is that during the movie, you sympathize with him a little bit because the government or this faction of the military has been experimenting on him this whole time. I love the way Amanda Waller sets up the plan, though. Operation Starfish has gone completely off the rails. Based on Starro's powers, it sounds like the government or the military faction responsible for this whole experiment was trying to use Starro as a means of creating a more controllable army, like more effective soldiers. And because it seems like Peter Capaldi's version of the Thinker was here long before the Suicide Squad rolls up, it sounds like they're trying to use him as part of this big experiment because his main power is mind control. They've done versions of the Thinker before, but not quite this comic book accurate looking. Like, he looks very close to comic book Thinker, and I believe he's supposed to be the Clifford DeVoe version, but he looks very much like the New 52 design of the Thinker. So he's not really a member of the Suicide Squad, so to speak, but he's down there and they use him as part of their plan. Like, they had that whole big funny sequence in the last trailer, like, if you do anything wrong, we will kill you on the spot. But like I said, it sounds like based on the way Starro just bursts out of this giant Jotunheim Nazi base, that they had been keeping him locked up underground and had some way of preventing Superman and other heroes around the world, other superheroes, from detecting that he was there. Because you think that Superman would try to do something if he found out about a giant starfish from space that was mind controlling people. I think the idea, though, is that they probably captured Starro before Superman came into his powers, or even maybe before he crashed to planet Earth. James Gunn is a huge comic book nerd, so usually they build in explainers like that during the movie. There'll be some funny way of explaining how other superheroes like the Justice Society, Dr. Fate, did not find out about Starro. They've also finished a lot more of the visual effects on this too. I love the effect that they use for Starro with his main ability spawning thousands of smaller starfish, using them to mind control everybody in these big crowd shots here. Like, you have to imagine that there's this giant army outside, all being mind controlled by Starro. They also explain some of his lesser abilities here too, like he has these small tendrils that come out of his arms that he uses to grab King Shark and throw him into a building, explaining how Starro can actually physically grab things. And even though they give some of the crazier lines to John Cena's Peacemaker character, who's like the douchebag version of Captain America, like imagine the douchiest version of Captain America you could think of, they do not shy away from any WTF Harley Quinn jokes like, sorry guys, sorry I'm late, I just had to pull a number 2, just had to drop a deuce, but ready to go now. And I love the dynamic between some of these team members here too. Obviously, we have a lot of characters returning from the first Suicide Squad movie, so they'll also explain the timeline and what was going on with that too. Like the idea that this is just the next version of the Suicide Squad team, the next roster in a long line of different teams that she's put together. I think the idea was that Will Smith had some sort of schedule conflict or didn't want to come back for this movie, and that's why they got Idris Elba. Like, they were originally thinking about recasting his version of Deadshot, but then decided just to make Idris Elba a completely different character. So there are some characters from that original team that are still alive that just didn't come back for this version of the team. I cannot wait for James Gunn to try and redeem Captain Boomerang. He wasn't that great during the first Suicide Squad movie, so there's nowhere to go for that character but up. The way that James Gunn also explained it too, talking more about carryover from the first film, is that there is no Joker in this version of the movie. Harley Quinn is showing up here after the events of the Birds of Prey movie. She gets arrested for some other crime, then gets thrown back in Bel Rev prison. She didn't kill the Joker during that film, so Jared Leto's Joker is still alive in the DCEU. And obviously we just saw him during the Justice League Snyder Cut, and he survived to that flash-forward nightmare scene. There'll probably be some brief references to him during this film just to explain the timeline, the continuity, but for the most part, he's not really a character during the film. The only other really big characters that I know of that are in the trailer that aren't actually members of the core team are Alice Braga's character. She's named Sol Soria. She's supposed to be the leader of the local resistance on Corto Maltese, fighting against this dictator called Silvia Luna, played Juan Diego Boda. She seems like she just winds up helping them out during their mission. But some of these characters that you see during the trailer will come back for the John Cena Peacemaker TV series. So I don't know if that means that they're going to be doing a lot of Belle Rev stuff during that. It sounds like they'd have to because, for instance, Jen Holland's character here, who's like Amanda Waller's assistant, she's a character on the Peacemaker TV series, so her character's coming back for that. So I'm assuming that if she works at Belle Rev, that they're also doing Belle Rev during that. The way James Gunn has talked about it, he hasn't completely explained the timeline of the Peacemaker series, like if it all takes place after the events of the Suicide Squad film. I think he just doesn't want to give it away because he doesn't want to tell you whether or not John Cena survives, but I think the idea is that he does survive the events of the film. In some of the Peacemaker series will take place after, but they'll also use it to tell his origin story and how he became that character, so there'll be flashbacks on it too. They haven't really said much about any other huge cameo scenes from the other Justice League actors, but like I said, obviously this is connected to the DCEU because of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and the other characters from the first Suicide Squad movie. There's been a lot happening with the DC movies lately. They're in the middle of filming the Flash movie right now. We actually finally got our first look at Supergirl. So this is the new version of Supergirl. It's a very Injustice looking version of the costume, but it's based on Henry Cavill's Superman costume, the designs. And we finally got to see Michael Keaton's Batman in the flesh, walking around, interacting with the other characters. We actually got our first look at the new Shazam costumes as well. This is the entire Shazam League, and now Mary Marvel, the actress who plays her, is old enough that she's playing both versions of the character, the powered up and the non-powered up version. But if you have any big questions about what's going on with the Suicide Squad or the continuity with the other Justice League movies and characters, just let me know in the comments below. I will do more DC videos as we get more footage from all the movies. We'll probably get a new trailer for the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson a little bit later this year too. My full Loki Episode 3 video will post next. While you wait for everything, click here for my full Loki Episode 2 video, and click here to learn how Loki just set up the events of Spider-Man No Way Home in Doctor Strange 2. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.